I think many of our attendees are eagerly waiting to have a question and answer session with you. First of all, we have Akila Jose who have requested first. So I ask Akila to unmute herself and ask the questions, sir. Akila, please. Akila, is there? Are you there online? Okay, let's move on to the person. I think she's not there. Next, we have Vishnu who has requested to ask a question. Vishnu, please. Vishnu 80, are you there? Okay. Then anybody, if you have any queries, please unmute yourself and ask a question to sir. Or just text in the text box, chat box. You can make use of chat box to ask the question.
Hello. Hello, sir. This is Mukesh.
Yeah.
Sir, your presentation was really informative. I had one question to ask you.
Rupesh, can I see you?
Yes, sir. I'm in the video. My video is on.
Okay. Yeah. Ask me.
Sir, basically, I'm an environmental student. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. Tell me.
So basically, I'm working on climate change and Western art. So, like, I do modeling using different algorithm and remote sensing. So, what I have noted in my last 3 years of study that humans have already committed blunders in Western art. Are you getting me, sir?
Yeah. Continue.
Like, replacing the natural forest with, commercial and economic-driven commercial plants like rubbers or whatever, spices and all. So what we have noted that, that the actual function, the ecological function, basically reduced in terms of, that water shade and all. Are you getting me, sir?
Yeah. Continue.
Meaning that, just the natural forests are replaced by other forests. It's happening, that the residence time of the water, I mean, suppose if it is a normal rain, if it is non-normal, then the residence time reduced and suddenly the water is down to good or low area. Yes, sir?
Yeah.
So as a result, sir, actually the damage has already been done. So like how we can, we have to reset things. Are you getting me, sir?
Yeah.
Would you like to please comment on?
Yeah. I can comment on it. See, you're Rupesh, right? Yeah. Rupesh, see the impact on the Western Ghats region, starting from South Kanyakumari, the southern part of the southern Western Ghats, all the way to Gujarat, is a very detailedly studied area, and we all know very clearly that it's been one global natural heritage that should be protected at whatever cost, no doubt about it. But there are massive developmental, dreams that are built on the Western Ghats region, all over, irrespective of which state it is. And it has been happening for centuries together. And the worst impacts have obviously happened over the last, let's say, 7, 8 decades, and intensively so, let's say, in the last 3, 4 decades. So what happened was a lot of people have worked on it, and there have been Western Ghats movements, especially after the Silent Valley, struggle. The Silent Valley hydroelectric project struggle over the Silent Valley Kundipuja, and after the Silent Valley project was, dropped by the central government under immense pressure from the public and environmentalists and political people also, they dropped it. But after that, there has been a huge movement in the Western Ghats, and there has been a Western Ghats march, and a lot of people coming in, a lot of learnings also happening and studies happening, all this stuff happening. But the problem is that parallel to all the efforts of ecologists, environmentalists, the developmental thing is still worse, which means you have constructions, you have, as you said, and off late the bigger mafia, like, the quarry and all that. But the earlier stages was, as you said, planting. All the plantations came up there. Some of them should never have come up there at all. So the damage has been caused. Now to rectify it, and very well, probably because you're doing this research, you must have also heard, and I'm putting it out here because others can also hear. There was this Western Ghats ecology expert panel put up to study this and come up with suggestions. In short, it's called the Madhav Gadgil report, because this is one of the India's best ecologists, Dr. Madhav Gadgil from the Indian Institute of Science, from Bombay, who actually studied this with a wonderful team and put out the Western Ghats ecology expert panel report. The report is an extremely detailed report, and it is talking about how various zonations of protections have to be there, and these are conservation zones or ecologically sensitive zones, and all this has been done in that report. Now, what happened to that report? This is an ecologist report, or let's say an environmentally supportive report, very democratically done, and for community to take it and operate, for panchayats to take it and operate. But then there was such an abusing of the report by the various lobbies and the mafia that they literally tarnished it. And so the government of Kerala, in other states also it has happened, but from Kerala we know that the state then set up the next committee, or the central government actually set up the next committee under Professor Kasturirangan. Now Kasturirangan diluted this report, literally, and brought out what is called, I would say, an engineer's report, something that can be implemented. But then even that nobody wanted. They threw it out. And then came, for example, in Kerala, how do you do it? They came, what is called the Biodiversity Board chairman was a Professor Umman, V. Umman, and he was asked to put a report. Now, I am sad to say that the report that Umman V. Umman actually came up was that he threw out every other ecological sensitive zone and finally came to the conclusion that only the forest, already protected area, should be continued to protect. But he put it very differently, so people will not have a problem reading it. But then the actual sense of it is only the PA area, where the protected area has become continuing ecological sensitive zones. Most of the villages were dropped out of the project, of the conservation area. Now, what is this idea about? This is not about no development. It was a definition of how development should be done in these regions, which means we wouldn't have made the mistake that we already did. We wouldn't have put rubber. We will put more, forest or ecologically, apt kind of planting or such kind of development only. Or even they even defined as to what kind of buildings can be there. It was so detailed. But this is one of those rare reports, which I must say with all sadness and shame, that even the Kerala Assembly, which is supposed to be a little more sensitive to environment, threw it out almost, unanimously. They just threw it out. So we are in back to square one. It's a very, very sad situation. We have had 2018 flood. We have had huge deluge and huge problems there. We have had 2019, and we have had number of landslides and all that. 2020, we are going to sit on again. When are we going to learn? I don't know. The struggle is continuing. All of us are part of the struggle, but we keep continuing. In fact, in that report also, we also worked on that report. Then I was part of the team which worked on the land policy of Kerala. That is a draft. It is sitting in the government. It's not going to be implemented. Look at what MOEF is doing now. I'm saying all this. Please don't understand that I don't have politics. All this is problematic. For us, the ecology, the survival is the politics. Government has to now stand up and say that nothing else matters, that we have to look at the environment. MOF is also clearing hundreds of projects, even in Western Ghats. Very destructive projects. What will you do? And in fact, when we talk to a lot of government people itself, inside the government, BJP is running the government there. We talk to many people inside the government, very close people to the, and they're also pained. They're saying, what will we do? So whoever be running the country, it is ultimately the destructive, hands which are operating. And hence, if we all don't, take up things in our own way, maybe research as you are doing, maybe research, we need to keep highlighting this more and more and more. Lot of research need to be done, and lot of public actions also need to be done. Yeah, that's my point.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
So, should I ask one more general question? Should I ask one more general question, Akhila? If you have time. Host, hello. May I ask one more general question?
Yes, sir, you can continue.
Sir, general question was there. Since you highlighted that, the national forest, is converted into agricultural land for solar and history. Like, are you getting it?
Pardon?
Since you highlighted that, that the national forest, Amazon forest and all this, they're converted to for livestock.
Yeah. Continue. No, you're not audible.
Am I audible, sir? Sorry, actually.
Now, yes, yeah. No, you have to repeat the question. I didn't hear you.
The question was, sir, since you have a point that the national forest, the rainforest has been converted into, under the they are converting the natural forest into soya and supplying it to the livestock. Correct, sir?
Yeah.
And also, it is very much common that, for producing 1 kilo of red meat, it requires 15,000 liters of water.
Yeah.
And for chicken, it requires 6,000.
Yeah.
Correct, sir?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now this social animal, us, we always fight that, we have the right to eat whatever we want. We cannot cut our, diet. I mean, it's fine. You can eat once in a while.
Yeah.
People are not ready, and in fact, they are moving into more processed food, which requires multitude of.
Yeah. So, what's the question?
It was like moving towards eating more processed food.
Yeah, I understand, but what's the question?
How we can stop people? Humans are like social animals. We cannot even if we go for environmentalism and all, people don't listen.
Yeah. See, let me tell you. Even while what you are saying is true and what I said is true, there is also a large movement across the world in various countries. Not only to stop this, get this stopped, but also to move into more, what we can call quote unquote safer or benign kind of food, which is necessary for us, but we don't need to exploit. See, I don't have a position, or I won't take a position that it is vegetarian that has to, all of us have to. Not like that. But I will take a position that it is dependent on whether you are a vegetarian or non-vegetarian is not the question at all. It is about how much we are adapting and surviving on our local conditions. So sometimes, in local conditions, you don't get that much green. You won't get your fat and protein through your green alone. You will have to have, animal food also. Like any other animal, you suddenly cannot come and say that the cow, because it is eating, or the bull or the deer which is eating green, are good, and all the lion and the tiger are the bad. In fact, if you don't have a tiger, you don't have a forest. And if you don't have a forest, you don't have water. Can you understand that? Because tiger becomes a sentinel species because it is the thing that is controlling the deer. Otherwise, the deer will proliferate all over the forest, multiply and become, or let's say the pig. It will multiply so much that we will have an ecosystem imbalance. So there is a role that in ecology all these animals play. Some are vegetarian, some are non-vegetarian, some are, it's not about, we don't even call vegetarians and non-vegetarian, the carnivorous, omnivorous, herbivorous, and various kinds of animals. And the small animals have different other niches also. So among birds, so it's a very complex system like that. Now in that, what is our role, or how do we live? For us, for human beings, it's a very interesting thing. Most of the animals, if you see, are adapted to certain ecosystems. So you won't find lion in the southern forests, but you found it in Gir. And why is there no giraffe in India? It's only there in Africa. So ecosystems, all these are very critical. There are niches, and there's a huge study that happens on those. But human beings have occupied every ecosystem. Now look at that. Not many animals do that. We are almost like cockroaches. When you see a cockroach, what do? You swap it. You think it's a pest. Human beings has literally been a pest, I must say. It's one of the biggest pests in as far as other animals are concerned. We have occupied every space. So when an elephant comes and takes over us or hits us, it's actually because we have occupied their space and it's coming and hitting us. Actually, we are the pest. They are not the pest. But we don't consider. We have the brain, so we won't consider ourselves pest. So what happens? We have occupied every space. Now, within that niche, wherever we are and we are living, traditionally, if you go to Bushmen or the American Aborigines or the Indian Aborigines or the I'm talking about tribalic people, or let's say the Australian Aborigines, you will see that they have somehow learned to adopt and adapt within their systems. So even when they take the tree or the plant, they know that they have to plant more. When they kill an elephant, an animal for food, they know that they have to allow other animals to survive so that they'll at least get food. So there is a symbiosis that is created there. Now, modern man, what it has done is, it has killed the symbiotic process and done it linear, which means they have found, for example, that, we can produce food. Now, what will you do? Some farmer was producing it in some small little land for them and for the community. They said, why are you doing like this? Let us do it huge, massively, this big. So that is the whole problem. So even in terms of eating meat or, chicken or animal food, traditionally in our homes and all, it is locally. We have our own chicken in our own chicken yard. We'll sometimes, eat it. But that is one set of questions one has to ask, which is, are we actually, minimalizing and localizing production? The second question is a bigger question. Do we need it? That's a much more biological question, which you also asked, and which I think is a process that we have all started. How much do we need to exploit the environment to eat? Whether we need to eat chicken or red meat, etc., or whether there are better alternatives. The whole debate between vegetarian, non-vegetarian, vegan, all comes from there. So there is a huge population which is already thinking about these things. It's not as if it's not there. And it's not an easy struggle. It's a huge struggle. One of the ways for all of us would be to keep doing it. As a policy, it will be very difficult to, because food becomes a very important criteria. Some people say that you should not drink milk at all. Now, the dairy industry will crash. And when I say dairy industry, I'm not talking about the huge industry. I'm talking about millions of farmers with 1 or 2 cows. You get my point. So this is intricately connected. And we have to look at, when you're looking at the future, we have to look at what sustains, what is actually needed within our ecosystems. And I would again go and say, finally, that it has to be based on ecosystems. What is it that we need? Kerala doesn't grow wheat, whereas Punjab shouldn't grow rice. But Punjab is eating rice and Kerala is eating wheat. I don't even know whether we should be doing it. We have been forced to. We have been by policy. Whether we should do it, we don't. I think those are questions that are still grey and we need to answer. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And now we have a question from Akila Jose, which is there in the chat box. Sir, let me read it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, as we all know that the problem with our humankind is a lack of attitude to conserve all these things. To inculcate this thought of conserving our nature from the beginning itself, what strategies should be changed or adopted in the curriculum or the teaching learning process?
Good question. See, I'm not somebody who can comment on the curriculum, let's say. I mean, you are basically MSW students mostly, not all of them probably, but I'm not somebody who can, comment on academic curriculum. But I will say, I mean, me having done my engineering and then coming out and into the world and seeing that my engineering is not needed. Not needed, it doesn't fit in at all. It's not about not needed. If I'll give you an example, let's say I'm a computer engineer, so there's a slight different matter there. But suppose I'm an engineer, civil engineer or whatever, and I'm going to a village and I want to construct something and I see a pond. And for me, I don't see the pond. I see space. But then I'll say, oh, I can build a house over this, or let me build a building over it. We have done hundreds of huge buildings. Even the groundwater board of the government of Kerala sits on a wonderful wetland, filled up. So imagine, that was obviously some engineer deciding it, or the planner, or the town planner, or somebody doing it. What did they do? They went and they didn't see the lake, they didn't see the wetland. They said, oh, this is nice plot, let's do it. So they didn't understand ecology, they didn't understand hydrology. Or they understood it, they corrupted themselves. The third thing that people don't understand is culture and social systems. You go to one place, there is a tribal living in a particular way. We'll say that, no, you should not live like that. You live like us. They'll build a big building for them. Now, these people don't want that building. We have hundreds of cases where you went to tribal colonies and built buildings like our buildings for them, and they can't live in it. They still want to live in the traditional. So, culture, society, all this need to be understood. So, my point for the question is, where is in our academics are we sensitizing students to the ground realities of the earth and all its facets, and society and all its facets, and the animal kingdom and the larger world and all its facets? We are not. So if you look at MSW thing, I mean, I can comment on the MSW because I'm part of one of the guest lectures. I keep going every year to the MSW department of Laila College, which is one of the best MSW departments supposedly in Tamil Nadu. I go to, I'm sort of I don't know what I am, but sort of visiting lecturer there. So, and I've also been asked to review their syllabus and all that. We did some reviews. They have done some good work on the syllabus. They do a lot of extra work outside the syllabus also, so which we help define and decide. So when we look at that, we realize that all these are traditional subjects, and subjects are taught very well in these places. You have some wonderful professors who teach you subjects, but there are very few people who can help you connect all of this together. And unless and until, and it's not about people, the problem is not even with the people, it's the syllabus itself. The syllabus itself needs to be able to connect it. And once you're connecting all these things, then we'll understand things better. Otherwise, we'll continue to be very allopathic in nature, not holistic. And allopathic is not in the wrong sense. Allopathic in the sense that you got a disease, I'm treating the disease. I have a pain here, I'll handle the pain here. But the pain here could be because something else is there, problem somewhere else. Headache, we'll treat headache. But then in the holistic system, they say that the problem is the stomach. You say that. And then later we realize that, oh, I ate that food, that is why I'm getting headache. So the linkage, understanding the linkage is extremely important. And when you're looking at rebuilding the syllabus, I would encourage that, considering the situation that has happened, whether it be a COVID or a flood or all the things that are happening in our country and in our state, nationally and globally, the syllabuses have to capture that. Otherwise, you are going to be students which are basically, very difficult, and you won't even realize. I mean, when you go on the job, the challenges will be different. So we need to, relook at that. That's what I would feel.
Thank you, sir. That was great. And now we have a question from Dr. Ranjit, sir. Sir, can I read out?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you comment on microenvironment role in global socio-economic status?
My God, he's asking me to take a complete class. I will not do that. Dr. Ranjit, terrific question. Absolutely terrific question. This is the connect. See, I'm very happy that somebody asked this question. See, people tell us, no, people ask us. I'll put the question slightly differently. I'll answer first and I'll come to this. See, people ask us. You are doing, let's say you are fighting the Western Ghats issue. You are tackling it. You are trying to say that please don't put quarries there. Please don't put rubber there. Please don't put tea there. Change the ecosystem. Have multi-cropping. Let's mimic the forest. Let's look at a different ecosystems approach there. It's a microenvironment question. People ask us, how does it matter? What is this influence to larger questions of whether it be not just socio-economic, global socio-economic status, but socio-economic, political, ecological status. Larger question. I always have a problem with the socio-economic. It's very, very anthropocentric. The political ecology matters. Political ecology will address the question of not just ecology, but the political link to ecology, the decision making. Who decides? Whom do we vote? Are they people who would protect us in terms of ecological questions? So that linkage is very huge, is my opinion, because we know very little about the connect that small environmental, systems, whether it be a wetland or microsystems, as he's saying, would influence the larger system. There are some microsystems that are explicitly clear. Let's say the Himalayas, for example. If you want to call it, it's just the Eastern Himalayas. It's a biodiversity hotspot. Or let's say the Western Ghats, our rainforest ecosystem. It has such a huge impact on the global system. We all know. That is why there's a global heritage team. But then, to be able to map a destruction that is happening there to possible destructions in the global, we have very little understanding. We can probably say there are impacts and probably even realize that it is there, but to demonstrate it is very, very difficult. At the same time, for macro environmental, like the oceans and the coral reefs, there are umpteen studies and understanding about how they influence even the ocean currents and hence the global climate systems. You understand my point? So that is something which the connect is, it still need to be done. As regards the socio-economic status, let me tell you, there's no doubt about it. Because if there is a link, and it's also the whole problem, Ranjit, that when you're talking about microenvironment, I am talking about my little microenvironment or an ecosystem in Kerala or near my place, but there are 1 billion people sitting all over the world and having the same problem, similar problems, which means that I have a ecosystems problem that I'm trying to, which has already happened here because of some development need or something else. There are millions facing the same crisis cumulatively, and let's say, complementarily and supplementarily, we don't even know what is the bigger impact. You get me? So in a million myriad ways, we are affecting the oceans. And that is why I said, no, when we go use some little plastic or go to the beach, sip up and throw the plastic out, it's a small intervention. But then, okay, it is going to the sea and then one fish eats it. Small problem. But this, if it is done by, let's say, 2 billion people, you're finished. And it's being done by 2 billion people or 4 billion people. That is the problem. So when the change has to be operated, it has to come from the local and the global. When we fought endosulfan, for example, we stopped endosulfan in Kasargod We stopped it in Kerala, and then we went all the way to the United Nations to stop it there. And today, a lot of these pesticides are being stopped. So it's even the terms of zero waste. So it's a operation where we cannot stop at just doing our local intervention. There are obvious socio-economic, political, ecological linkages that need to be considered. And to the question that was earlier asked, and I will tell you, Ranjit sir, we need to do these connections to the children, to the students also. Very important. When I went to an economics institute in Kerala for a lecture, a very small talk, little, they didn't know circular economy. They didn't know Dovenut economy. They haven't heard about Thomas Piketty. I was surprised. You get my point. And I did many sessions in various institutes, but in one of them I'm saying, they didn't know. So I said the first thing that that college needs is a mechanism of updation of information for the professors itself, before we even go to the students. So I'm very happy with this question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So you are saying that we should start changing from the grassroots level itself.
Both
Yes.
sides. Even while we are doing the grassroots, highlight it to reach the globals.
So next, if anybody have a question, please do ask a question, or I'll read out some other question from the chat. Okay, I'll read one question. So there is a comment, and along with that one question, I'll just read out to you. So when I'm listening to your class, I just remembered about my lower primary classes, where I had a subject called Parisara Padana, which was my favorite, but unfortunately the subject only lasted for 4th standard. After that, it converted into science, then split it into physics, chemistry, biology. I think environmental study should be included in the academics as environmental study subject. Could you please share your opinion on this question?
Yeah. First of all, whoever it is.
But I think it's Ashik.
Okay, Ashik. See, I completely agree. I completely agree that we should have had Parisara Padanam continuing. I mean, considering approximately what age you all could be, I was also part of, those initial periods where we are talking about changing the syllabus and all that for even small school children. Parisara Padanam, we know. We also had a book which came out called, I think, Mann and all that during that time for the Malayalam medium and English medium, government students, government college school students. See, I completely agree with you that, when we are, we split up into physics, chemistry, it has happened to all of us. But to understand ecology, understand environment, I don't think an environmental study would be enough. You get my point. I don't think an environmental study as a paper would be enough. It will help you. It will help in some form. But it will again be a subject which you study to understand environment. The connect that I'm talking about is a different problem. It can be done when you study your physics. It can be done when you study your chemistry. It can be done when you study your biology. All this can also be connected to. So it is in the way that the syllabuses of these subjects are defined that I have a problem with. You get my point. So for engineers, let me tell you, when I do engineering, if I have, okay, you sir is saying we should have environmental studies for engineering, well, let's have a subject. It doesn't work. In fact, for the engineering students, right, of late, there is sustainable engineering as a course. I think it's a useless course. It's a useless course because it is not dealing with the most core problem, which is, which is to understand the ecology of this planet or various ecosystems of this planet. Those fundamentals are not taught. Even in environmental studies, I'll tell you, they'll teach you sanitation, they'll teach you hygiene, they'll teach you lots of things. But it's all for us to do. It is not enough. It is good, but it is not enough. Is my way of looking at it.
Thank you, sir. So if anybody have any more questions, please come up. So one question is there. I'll read it out. Uh, it is from Rashid. When I was through Santosh George Kulangara's blog, he was expecting an education system which ensure additional marks for eco-friendly involvement of students, as same as how we are making for athletics, arts, and sports. What do you think about such an initiative in education system?
No, just repeat the question. Just repeat the question. I didn't see it.
When I was going through Santosh George Kulangara's blog, he was expecting an education system which ensure additional marks for eco-friendly involvement of the students, as same as how we are making for athletics, arts, and sports. What do you think about such an initiative in education system?
See, it will again, I have the same answer for that earlier question. It will also be an academic process where that will also be there. That is not going to give us the depth of the understanding that we need as human beings. See, the point, I mean, I'll rephrase the answer in a different way. See, we are academicians. Okay, we are studying, and either academicians or students or professionals or, maybe farmers, whatever. But above all that, and we are children of certain fathers and mothers, and we are probably also mothers and fathers in the future. But at the end of the day, you are a human being. And this human being is an animal in a larger planet. And to be able to live and survive here, the understanding that one gets of ecology, etc., is a skill of survival. Is a skill of survival, and which means that you will learn so much of the ecology and environment to survive. But when you have, let's say, an environmental study subject, unless these linkages are done, and it will not be enough. Similarly, if you have, these exercises, it's good. Some orientation you will get, but you will not get the orientation that is needed for actual survival. That is more about sensitively connecting you, all of you, us, to nature. So if you can give me a subject which says sensitively connecting us to the nature, which is both about study and practice. So I'll know how to do farming. I'll know what is the right kind of building I should do. I'll know, lots of things like that. Then you will understand. I'll give you an example. One of the best courses that talks about sustainable living and holistic education, 2 subjects, is a 1 year or a 10-month course, which is not even a diploma course or anything, it's a certificate course, but it's a live-in course that is being done by, in India, I see one of those few good courses. One of them is in Bangalore and is run by a group called Bhumi Trust, Bhumi College. It's in Bangalore. Every year, now the applications are open. Every year they call for a 10-month experiential for postgraduates, graduates, at any point. 40 years down the line, you have done all your work, you've had enough of it, you can go and join the course. So when I do lectures there every year. So they have this 10-month course where a lot of young, wonderful people come, and the core of the course is sustainable living and holistic education. So both this answers your question. Now, when I go and look at that syllabus, it's a whole lot of things. They actually do hands-on training in agriculture, pottery, and they also do hands-on in learning, teaching. And they learn from a number of experts who come there to give them various kinds of sessions. It is from deep philosophy, deep ecology, to very interesting economic approaches to the future. So there are experiments that are happening. The only sad thing is, in our conventional institutions, academic institutions. None of this is happening. Even in America, I mean, recently I had a mentored girl, young girl, friend's daughter. So she was mentoring every year from America. She'll come here to spend about 2 weeks in our organization. She goes back. Now, when she went there, she didn't want to do normal engineering. She wanted to do something very different. So what engineering is different? Now, when she went there, she's doing something called translational engineering. Now, do we have a course in translational engineering here? We have a course in Barton Hill College here. The only MTech course with translational engineering. What is translational engineering? All the engineering you have taught, you have learned. You learn to translate that into current societal problems, current ecological problems. So our academic institutions need to grow to be, right from school, to be able to capture real needs, pertinent contemporary questions, and be able to answer it. That is not happening adequately, is my point.
Thank you, sir. So I think almost all the questions, here is one question from Shabir. So can I read out? Is there time for you?
Yeah, I have no problem. Please.
Okay. It is very difficult to make the political executive understand the importance of environment, who look everything through security prism. How as an environmentalist could you convince whole executive to conserve the environment when the infrastructure damaged and forest exploited in mass? Please share your thoughts.
Okay, let me, comment on his question in a very different form. One, not all political executives and bureaucracy, politicians or executives are bad, are like this. Some of the good things that have happened in the country is because some of them are good. Okay, but they are also under immense pressure from various pressure groups to continue to be exploited or corrupt. And exploitation and corruption usually goes hand in hand. It's very interesting. If you want to learn where corruption happens, please go and find out where exploitation happens. That's how it is, always. So, not all politicians and executives are like that, but most of them are forced to be, are like that, and some of them are forced to be, some of them are inherently like that. Because this whole thing about government or nations, government, etc., are in a continuous competition among themselves. Now, look at it like this. If you want to understand it very simply, see, COVID came, China went down, then America went down, then all the European countries went down. And then suddenly, all the people who were doing their business in China doesn't want to do business in China now. Okay. So China is desperately trying to show to the world that we don't have a problem. You can all come and continue to do that. And all the other nations who are angry with China, one, and also have a little problem otherwise, and have been affected, or there is a risk element in being in China, now want to move out of China. Now, when they move out of China, most of the companies which went and established in China is because China gave them a very, very free hand in terms of exploiting their community, exploiting environment, and all these things. It was very cheap in there in China. Labor, environmental regulations, all of it. So they were all happy doing it in China. They can't do it in America because America, the environmental regulations are very strong, extremely strong. India also has equally good environmental regulations, I'll tell you, seriously. We always had a very good environmental regulation system. In fact, the best in the world. But what happened now, China wants to, the companies that went to China, all the Japanese companies, the Taiwanese companies, the American companies, European companies, now want to move out of China. So what is India doing now? India is saying, you are welcome here. Now, when they are welcome here, it has to be made, good for them to come and stay here, which means we will dilute our environmental regulations. America is drastically diluted its environmental regulations since Trump came. And now India is now trying to destroy its environmental regulations to welcome all these companies out here. Who is forcing them to do it? The corporates are forcing them to do it. So I completely agree with what Gopakumar sir started off. The whole corporatization of governance, and society is the biggest killer of both environment and society and culture. And we cannot continue to afford to have that. So my answer to that question is, that we have to recapture, in whatever form, democratic electoral forms, the purity of our democratic systems, whether it be the governments or the bureaucracy, back to the electorate, which means that in the Indian constitution, for example, if you ask me, I mean, there is always this legal question. India, president, prime minister, cabinet, parliament, all is there. No? So there is always this legal question. What is the most powerful body in India in terms of governance? You know what? The answer from the constitution is it's the people. Very rarely in the world is there a nation which actually says that the people is all powerful. And then comes the parliament and then the other things. So what does it mean? It means that we still have the power, but we have been corrupted badly. It has to be corrected, no doubt about it. And I do not see very great hope in the kind of people that we are, I mean, my generation people are, to correct it. Because we all live with a bandwagon of old things. And no creative ideas also. You ask me, how do you solve the problem? I'll tell you, let's go to the secretariat and hold the flag and make a samaram. That's what we know. Whereas you will tell us a different way. You need to tell us a different way. And you should not, actually tell us, the moment you tell us a boring way, I will say you that, oh, this person has been influenced by some party. So don't come up with boring ways. Let's have very innovative ways of actually challenging the government and correcting it. We are not challenging the government to throw them out. We are correcting them. And nobody is a holy cow. Nobody is God. Everybody is vulnerable. So let us, work in those lines. I'm somebody who has worked very closely with governments, and I'm somebody who has worked, with a high level of criticism of governments. But we have never been against the government, because the government is formed by the Indian constitution and by us. So let us respect that. At the same time, that respect should not go into the level that whatever they do is right. They can do 100 wrongs. Let us be able to stand up and politely say you're wrong. We have our social media, we have our Twitters. Nowadays, we can directly do it. No, I can write to the Prime Minister saying you're wrong. In fact, I do it every day. So, and the other side also. And when they are right, yeah, they are right. So we have to, exercise not only our electoral rights, but also our opinion rights. The right to be opinionated and the right to tell our opinion. Let us use that, to keep correcting the bureaucracy and the political systems. And if we think, and I would strongly think, but let us think that this is extremely important, ecology, health, education, then let us, talk about that. Very strongly talk about that. And bring that as priority into the government. It's what I would say.
Thank you, sir. And I think you have answered the question. You have commented in the comment box. So I will end up the session with one last question that is also there in the comment box. How should we protect our environment by not stopping humans to be non-vegetarian? Because very large number of people who are killing creatures every day and are served on the plate to eat.
Protect the environment by not stopping humans to be non-vegetarian. I told you, I think I answered this question. I'm not somebody who, who will take a quote unquote fanatic position of saying non-vegetarians are wrong, vegetarians are right. No. I won't do it because as a human species, we have occupied all ecosystems. In some ecosystems, you have to continue to eat non-vegetarian. You don't have a choice. Eskimos, for instance. Eskimos. What are the choices? You can ask them that no, they all moved. They can't because generations they have got adapted. You can't take an Eskimo and put it in Delhi. It'll die. You get my point. They have adapted to that. So they have to continue to live in that as long as they need. At the same time, in a tropical country like us, we obviously don't need to eat this much meat. No doubt about it. Those who are in real crisis in some cases, for example, In some regions, the people are dependent on fish because that is the only thing available, only protein available. You have to probably let them eat. So it's not a fanatic position of vegetarian non-veg. But I'm completely against the slaughtering of animals for blind eat. What I call blind eat. Not when you're hungry and not when you're craving for it. I want to eat something nice today, not that. It's like fashion. Whatever function you want to have, whatever you want to eat, beef, and not for that kind of fanatic. So on either side of the side of the fanaticism, what I was saying is that we have to have a value approach to this. And the valuation should be dependent on where we are living and what is the local food. And localizing the food is the most important. That's my way of looking. I look into the question of vegetarian, non-vegetarian because I think it's a very, very biased discussion. It's not about, see, Brahmins in Bengal eat fish. They can't sell fish. It's because that is the way they have to take protein. And we just suddenly say we pay you protein for some. That's not your pitch.
Sir, may I please interrupt? Sir? Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, your audio is not so audible. Some
Yeah.
problem is network issue.
I don't know why. Now you can hear me.
It's not clear. I can hear you, but it's not clear. It's breaking something.
Just 1 second. Just give me a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. It's okay.
Yes. Okay. It's okay. Yeah. So I just said that.
So I think almost all the questions are over, and let's wind up the session. We are so overwhelmed to have you, such a great personality. So can you please mute your mic? Echo is there. Okay, sir. So we are very pleasure. We are very overwhelmed to have you as our guest for the day, and you have patiently heard all our queries and cleared all with patience. So before we wind up, I would like to remind you all about the challenge we have for you, that is upheaval to upcycling, which Sridhar sir has already launched. Through this program, we put forward a challenge to recreate something useful and of environmental value with bits and pieces of useless materials around, where the concept of extending the utility of the used materials could reduce the production and pollution. So start challenging your friends and win exciting cash prizes. Now I call upon Ms. Atira to go on line for the vote of thanks. Over to you, Atira. Are you there?
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening to all the dignitaries, students, and all who gathered in here. World Environment Day celebrates the importance of raising awareness about nature and protecting the environment for the present and future. This webinar on One Earth No More Choice pointed out the need to cherish the changes around us and develop strategies according to go in sync with the nature. So going to the duty assigned to me, that is to deliver the vote of thanks. Firstly, I would like to express my profound gratitude to the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Central University of Kerala, Dr. G. Gopakumar, for inaugurating this webinar and for all your support and blessings. Next, I express my thanks to Dr. Jilly John, Head in charge of Department of Social Work of Central University of Kerala, for her continuous guidance and support and for being all along for the success of this event. Next, I extend my gratitude on behalf of our whole department to Mr. Sridhar Radhakrishnan, environmentalist and engineer, and also the project management coordinator who gave us a wider understanding on the issues and threats of our environment. and for clearing all the doubts and queries of our participants and spending this much precious time for us, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I thank Miss Akhila and Miss Suhana, social work students of Department of Social Work of Central University of Kerala, for moderating and delivering the welcome speech. Thank you. And then I thank all the participants from Kerala as well as from Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Chennai, Bangalore, Bellary, Manipur, and also from outside the nations, UK, New Zealand, and Dubai. Thank you all for making the event a real success. And at last but not the least, I particularly thank all the students of Department of Social Work, Central University of Kerala, for taking this extra effort and to make this program a big success. We have forgotten how to be good guests, how to walk lightly on this earth, on this as our other creatures do. This is the time to rethink our action for a better future. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Athira. Now we come in into the meeting, and I would like to remind you all, kindly do fill up the feedback form. Certificates will be issued for those who fill both registration form and feedback form. Links are available in the chat box. Please make use of it. So let's not neglect this time for nature. Join together to bring a change and act as a part of the nature. Once again, thanking you all. Thank you.